After several days of counting and controversy over this election, celebrations erupted last night as President-elect Joe Biden took the stage and laid out his agenda in his victory speech.
The first doses of Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine began shipping earlier this morning.
Okay, I'm actually taking this advice because right now I'm trying to find containers to reorganize my room to fit more stuff under my bed. So I'm currently in this process, so I apply to that. Do you?
Yeah, see, I'm really good at getting organized before things start, before a school year, but then, a few months in, everything is everywhere. So I need a better way to
staying organized.
To stay organized.
Yeah. More Americans boarded planes the day before Thanksgiving than any day since March. There was so much smoke in that video, Alexis. Is there any chance of that being able to travel, to our area and us being able to see that? Millions of Americans still haven't seen their first check. KOMU-8's Corey Johnson reports that money means everything to a Boonville family. And we have some developing news about the shooting at the Columbia Mall. Police are now naming 2 suspects in connection with the shooting.
It's a case we've been following all last week. A 29-year-old woman who confessed to shooting him is behind bars. But last night, family and friends gathered for a vigil to remember Hayes. Good morning, Mid-Missouri, and thanks for waking up with us here on KOMU-8 News Today. I'm Annabel Thorpe. Since the Capitol riot on Wednesday, there have been many developments regarding arrests, resignations, and President Trump's Twitter suspension. We'll get to all of that soon, but first, good morning, Mid-Missouri, and thanks for waking up with us here on KOMU-8 News Today. I'm Annabel Thorpe. Since the Capitol riot on Wednesday, there have been many developments regarding arrests, resignations, and President Trump's Twitter suspension. We'll get to all of that soon. But first, Jacob. All right, thanks so much, Jacob. Protests started in downtown St. Louis yesterday. People are demanding for Senator Josh Hawley to resign. Dozens of demonstrators gathered outside the old courthouse. They urged Hawley to resign following the riot at the Capitol on Wednesday. They believe the Republican senator helped fuel the riots at the nation's capital. Hawley condemned the Wednesday's violence, but he still objected to certify votes for President-elect Joe Biden after the riot ended. And yesterday, the Missouri Democratic Party called on Josh Hawley to also resign and be expelled. In a press release, the party's chair wrote, quote, Josh Hawley aided and abetted an attack on our democracy and the U.S. Capitol. He does not deserve to be called U.S. Senator. Since the attack, Hawley has accepted none of the responsibility that falls squarely at his, Ted Cruz, and Donald Trump's feet. The party also cited the 14th Amendment when calling for Hawley's removal. President Trump has sent more than 26,000 tweets since taking office, but yesterday there were no tweets. This because Twitter banned the president. NBC's Jolene Kent has the latest. Several of President Trump's allies said they're ditching Twitter for other social media networks like Parler. Google has banned Parler from its app store until it looks into the, quote, ongoing and urgent public safety threat. And during the Capitol riots, you may have seen photos of this man wearing a horned fur hat. That's right, a horned fur hat. The Justice Department says he has turned himself into police. Jacob Anthony Chansley is facing charges of knowingly entering a restricted building without lawful authority, as well as violent entry and disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds. The Justice Department says Chansley traveled for the riot at the president's request for all patriots to come to Washington, D.C. Another man, 41-year-old Douglas Jensen, you see on your screen here, is behind bars on charges that he participated in the riot at the U.S. Capitol. He is from Des Moines and was arrested by FBI and officers Friday night. He faces 5 charges. Those charges include trespassing, disorderly conduct, and violent entry into a Capitol building. One person who rioted at the Capitol is now making a run for office. Jason Riddle, as you see on the screen, is from New Hampshire, and he is a U.S. Army and Navy veteran. He says he made the trip to D.C. to protest the 2020 election results and then decided to follow the mob inside the Capitol. On Thursday, Riddle resigned from his position as mail carrier at the U.S. Postal Service and announced he's running for Cheshire County Commissioner.
I didn't go there to hurt anyone or break anything. I just couldn't. You just see that they just broke into the building. I was just in shock. I couldn't believe it was happening.
In Wednesday's riots, over 100 National Guardsmen from New Jersey are now headed to D.C. Troops from Blackwood will join a task force to protect the presidential inauguration on January 20th. More than 6,000 Guard members have been activated and are expected to arrive in D.C. over the next few days. Security experts say to expect a heightened police and military presence leading up to the inauguration.
You're going to see what I would call very buttoned down Washington, D.C. on Inauguration Day.
Vice President Mike Pence is expected to attend President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration. The news of Pence attending was first reported by the Washington Post, and it comes as President Donald Trump announced he would not be in attendance. The U.S. National Guard may be allowed to carry guns in Washington, D.C. soon. Defense leaders are reviewing restrictions on use of force by National Guard members ahead of the presidential inauguration. Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy told the Associated Press that will be determined by intelligence gathered in the coming days about potential threats. It's up to local commanders to determine if those deployed Guard members from other states are authorized to carry weapons. Demonstrators rallied in Minnesota to demand charges in the shooting of Jacob Blake, an unarmed black man. Dozens of people marched in Minneapolis to seek justice for Blake. Blake was paralyzed after being shot by Kenosha officers. Kenosha County District attorneys decided not to bring criminal charges against the Kenosha police officer who shot Blake. Local activists hope to keep the officer from returning to the job. A Colorado district attorney says no charges will be filed against Aurora police officers who detained a family at gunpoint last year. The DA says there was no evidence officers broke any laws when they mistakenly identified the family's car as stolen. The vehicle's passengers, which were 4 kids between the ages of 6 and 17, were ordered to the ground and some were placed in handcuffs and guns were drawn. An attorney representing the family says they would likely file civil rights lawsuits against the officers and the department.
I think they would have learned something over the last year.
Horrible and as wrong as it was, there just weren't any criminal charges that were warranted.
They need to.
In other news, rescue and research crews are at the site of a plane crash in Indonesia. Ships and crews were deployed after a Boeing 737-500 passenger jet crashed into the sea just minutes after taking off. The flight was carrying 56 passengers and 6 crew members. The plane disappeared from the radar after taking off during heavy rain. There's no immediate clues on what caused this sudden descent. As COVID cases continue to rise across the U.S., oxygen supplies are at a critical low in COVID hotspots. Hospital administrators in Arizona and California are reporting oxygen use up to 4 times pre-COVID rates. In some cases, oxygen is running out entirely, sending staff to scramble for resources. Several doctors say they are terrified and will have to ration it and essentially pick who gets life-saving care and who does not.
They're like, hey, this is our last oxygen tank, like portable oxygen. And so I was like that was not something that was on my radar either in my hospital. And so we were able to scramble and find a whole bunch more.
Britain's Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip both got their COVID-19 vaccinations. Buckingham Palace officials say the couple got their shot Saturday, and Windsor Castle, where the couple has been spending their time during the lockdown. They join 1.5 million people in Britain who have already got the first dose of the vaccine. Your time is 7:10, and we will be right back after this break.